Thank you for joining me for this tutorial, How to Use Security, Part 1. Because we're going to be talking about the built-in Servoy security, if you need to know some of the basics, check out our previous Flash tutorial, Introduction to Security. That'll be a good basis for you. But in this tutorial, we're going to set the visible and accessible options on the form level, and we're also going to create our own custom login form. In Part 2, we'll create our own security tables and use events to enforce our own security rules. So let's pop over to Servoy Developer and get started. All right, I've created a very basic form here that's got some fields on it. It's got some labels on it. I've given all of the objects names. This is going to be important when we're talking about going ahead and setting up viewable and accessible options. You have to have a name property filled out for each of the objects that you want to be able to control. I've also gone ahead and I've set up some users and groups. So I've set up both the administrators and the users. So Bob, user, is a member of the administrators, and the Tom, user, is a member of the users groups. Now we'll come back to our customers form, show our properties, and now we'll come down here, down to the bottom, and click on the Security tab. All right, so now we're seeing all of the security options for this form called Customers. At the very top here, there's the Customers form itself. And by using these checkboxes, I can make it viewable and or accessible. If I uncheck the accessible, that will dim out everything on the form and make it gray. Or I can go down on an object-by-object basis and view and show or make them enabled or disabled by checking and unchecking the checkboxes for each individual object. So I've named all of my objects with FLD for the fields and LBL for the labels. So let's see how this works in practice. I'm going to go ahead and click on the users group, and I'm going to say that I want the whole form to be not accessible or dimmed. We need to save that by hitting Control-S for save. And now when we view it in the Smart Client, you'll notice that we didn't get any dialog box asking us to log in. Well, why is that? Well, because we haven't told Servoy that the solution needs to be authenticated. So let's go ahead and do that. Those settings are at the solution level. So if you click on your solution, and I'll change perspectives that will show the properties. If you click the Must Authenticate box, now let's try it again. Sure enough, we get our login dialog box. So it's asking me who I want to log in as. So I'm going to enter Tom and click OK. Now we see that this whole form is not accessible, or everything on there is dimmed out. Let's see what other options we can do. I'm going to go ahead and change perspectives again to hide the properties. Now let's click on our users again and do check accessible. But this time, what we'll do is we will dim out or make inaccessible both the city field and the city label. And let's go ahead and hide the customer ID field completely and hide the customer ID label completely. All right, so let's go ahead now and save, Control-S. And now when we reopen in the Smart Client, you'll see that this top area here where the company ID was is empty, and both our city label and our city field are dimmed out. Now, if you want to see what it looks like to be logged in as the administrator Bob, you can simply come up to the File menu, pull down Log Out. And now we can log in as Bob. Bob is the password. And now everything is fully accessible. The customer ID is back and the city is back editable.